Hello, everyone. This is Michaela, and you're listening to the End All the Things podcast. As a life coach and facilitator, I work with individuals and groups to empower their best selves to shine to the betterment of all involved. My goal is always to bring you closer to trusting the voice inside of you that is authentically yours. My job here is no different. In my journey through life, I continue to meet people who use their authenticity, their gifts, to grow, change, and serve through professional and personal endeavors. These people and their stories become my gift to you, for I cannot keep a good thing to myself, and I believe that they may inspire a part of your story to evolve. Hello, friends. Today is going to be a good one. Today, I offer to you the incredible Arya Donahue. She is the president of Many Women, Many Stories, Inc., which is an organization, really a collaboration that offers a variety of programming from conferences to sharing circles, all with the intention of women's self-empowerment through leading the telling of our own stories. Arya has been an entrepreneur for a very long time. She has been ahead of the curve as a wellness practitioner for decades. And she is also a Wilmington girl like myself. So couple that with a shared passion for the exploration and cultivation of joy. She actually shares with us one way that she refers to herself is the joy liberator. So you know this conversation is going to be rich in my world. You will learn that Arya is a lyricist. She is a spiritual healer. She is a breathwork healer. She is also a prized news show host, and she is just a gift. You're going to learn practical tips for breathing, for thinking, for engaging with life. We talk a lot about words and language and their power and how they often get in the way of the divine voice within, which, as you know, is my whole goal with this show, to bring out the divine voice within and share those stories so that you can grow, change, and serve. So without further ado, I offer you Arya Donahue and all the things. All right, Arya, it is such a pleasure to have you here today. I am really excited to see where this conversation goes, but as we just discussed, we're going to start with our point of origin and your biggest focus today, which is Many Women, Many Stories. So I came to know of this project, right, through our mutual friend, Donna Dowson, who was on episode number 2 of my podcast. And then I heard your story on Nikoa's podcast, Coffee with Nikoa, who was also a guest here with us. So I'm feeling all this aligning, and I want to know more about you and this program that you are bringing to so many women.
Well, thank you. It began as was kind of placed in my heart when UNCW back in the I think it was 96. A colleague of mine at the time who was a professor there created a Many Women, Many Stories event. And I was part of the Women in Spirituality panel for that. And it left such an impression with me that I carried around this purple folder, moving many, many times since 1996, until I came back here a year ago, last August.
Back to Wilmington.
Back to Wilmington from the mountains. I've lived in the mountains of North Carolina in various places after I left here in 99. And I always had this folder with me, and I would talk to other women up there about it that I would interact with, and didn't seem to be any energy, really synergy around it. So I thought, okay, that's fine. Yeah. And when I came, I also have a health wellness business, and I participated in a women's health event. And in November of 2022, and I had a table, and a couple of women came up and interacted with me, and they chose to come and see me in my health practice. So when they started telling their story, I was getting very excited about their journeys and their health journeys and their personal journeys were so interesting to me. And I mentioned to two of them, Jennifer Leach and Angelique Nichols, what do you think about this idea? And
Yeah.
then they immediately said yes. So I
How
believe that
did you present it to him that day? What was the pitch?
the pitch was that I believe that there is so much power in the telling of a story because it can help other women who are having difficulty in their journey. It can guide them on possible resources for their journey. It can help them when they're feeling overwhelmed to know that if she made it through that difficult journey, and they both had difficult journeys, then maybe I
Mhm.
can make it. I can do it.
Right. Like we can't even imagine it, right? We can't imagine number one that anyone is sharing a journey similar to our own, right? Because we feel like we're on an island, right? No one else on the whole planet. And it's true. No one is having the same experience. But navigating similar bumps and bruises and hurdles is a universal truth, right?
Yes.
So if we can imagine that other people are going through something similar, if not worse,
Yes.
then maybe I can too. And I think that's the power of storytelling, right? So I used to be an English teacher in Brunswick County and New Hanover
Oh,
County down in North
oh
Carolina.
yeah. Mm.
And, I chose English not because of my love for commas and semicolons. In fact, I had to learn them all as I was teaching these children. But I chose English because in the telling of our stories, whether it's historical, it's fiction, whatever, we get an idea, the creativity of what else could be, what else might be. And it's exploring that possibility and being curious enough about other people that we're like, I wonder what mine is, right?
Yes.
So I no semicolon and comma love. I mean, I've gotten kind of fond of them in my learning, but I want people to tell their stories as well. And when I see someone doing that the way that you are, I mean that's my draw for this podcast because I want to highlight people who are doing things just like you and me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing them to help others grow, change, and serve because that's the cure. I'm going to learn from you, right? In every encounter, it's an opportunity to learn. So let's get really good at telling our stories so that we can let them be of service to others.
It's the whole point. Yeah. And I'm gonna learn from you too. And I totally agree with that. We have an opportunity in every single encounter.
Mhm.
If I allow myself to be fully present, and I'm a breath therapist, I teach 6 or 7 different breath techniques, and one is be here now, how to be present. So if I'm fully present with someone and I am doing my be here now breath, that I will hear, I say what's being said underneath the cover of words.
Mm, yes, because as beautiful as words are, they really get in the way, don't they?
Yeah, because and if we're really listening on those levels, we will hear how I hear how I can be of service to someone
Mm.
because it's not necessarily what they're saying, but it's underneath what they're saying. It's an energy that we experience.
Ooh,
So,
so many places to go here. Um, okay, because yes, we're going to go all those places, I think. But what I have found in the work that I do is the closer we get to the voice inside us, that divine voice that is truly uniquely ours, and the more confident we become in letting it speak, at least be heard, all the other noise suddenly gets quieter,
mm,
right? And
mm,
it's a yes and thing. Like they both have to happen. The noise has to quiet down, which is practice and work, and then the confidence of the voice has to come through. So when I think of many women, many stories, I think it could be any of us,
yes,
all of us, right?
yes.
And I truly believe there is a story waiting to be told in everyone. So when you approach those first two women and have talked to women before, and you pitch this idea, this come tell your stories, what's the obstacle? Are people afraid to tell their story or are they all in? Or is there no obstacle? Don't let me paint that picture. But are people ready to tell their stories?
Well, actually, yes. From my experience, we had too many that we actually said, okay,
We'll have
let's
to do this again.
let's welcome people to tell their stories.
Mhm.
And we just put a blog on our website because we still encounter people that want to tell their stories. So we're going to keep gathering so that if and when we choose to do another conference, and I don't know how that's going to shape up, we are involved in other aspects of.
You did your first conference in November, right, of
Yes.
2023. Excellent.
Yes, yes. So we chose from, we had a team of women. See, I believe when you have a triangle of three women in agreement, everything's possible, anything's
Mhm.
possible. So from that, we attracted other women to be a part of Many Women, Many Stories.
Mhm.
And we had a group of women that had come together, and we would listen to the various women's stories that we invited to kind of so we could get a sense of it.
Mhm.
And then we chose 6 women out of it from various, we wanted it to be multi-generational. And it was because we had a 22-year-old up to an 89-year-old who had 9 children.
Wow.
So,
Oh, the stories that you
yeah,
both tell. Oh my goodness.
the richness. And there wasn't really, we've got pictures at the conference, there wasn't a dry eye with some of them. And there was a lot of joy. And so that's how we got to the conference, was by really just staying present with these women who came forward to want to tell their stories. And we realized that some of them were pretty heavy. And
Mhm.
so we took the opportunity to kind of say, yeah, and this is a powerful story. How can we help her kind
Mhm.
of see the essence of what her message is? And that's something that I like to do with people, because I in my background, I just kind of can, and I'm sure you have that ability as well. I sense that with you. You can hear something and then all of a sudden you go, oh, this is the essence
Right. This
of
is
their.
where this is the energy, the direction that we're moving in that isn't the words.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah.
So in these telling of the stories, and you're talking about this beautiful slice of time, at the beach, at a conference, surrounded by all these feeling women. Was there a common theme in those 6 speakers across the generations and experiences that emerged from the stories they told?
I think in actually a jumping off point for me, where I really had the motivation to move forward with this, was watching the on Netflix. You may have seen it. It's Mission Joy with Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama.
I haven't, but I've read the book,
Okay,
The
well,
Book of Joy. Oh,
oh my
it
gosh, to
is
see them
so good.
together was beyond. I mean, and I still watch it. We were.
I'm gonna have to watch that ASAP,
Yes.
and I'll link that in the show notes for our listeners, and I'll put the book there as well.
Yes. So
Oh.
the common theme was in that how the Dalai Lama changed his perspective when
Mhm.
he was exiled from Tibet. And of course, now we realize it was a blessing for the world because we needed him in the world, and he
Mm.
knows that too. So the common theme that I was looking for, and the team of us were looking for, was, okay, you had this challenging experience.
Mhm.
How were you able to reframe it and see it from a different perspective, where it gave you the opportunity to see what maybe a creative talent you have, what a healing you now have from it, how
Mhm.
you can be of service to others with it.
Right.
So that's what the common theme.
And that's a great point, because to kind of float back a minute, you said we were talking about every encounter is a healing encounter. And if we hold that gift in, we're not able to serve. So if our only encounters are taking and taking, how are we perceiving that and how are we holding it? Because
Yes.
if we can't reframe it and let some stuff flow out, right? We get all bottled up and we tote around, as I call it, the Samsonite collection of luggage.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
and it's heavy and it's burdensome
Oh, yeah.
until we look and realize that we don't have to carry the bags. Why are we carrying the bags? We don't know. So what I love about this is that, and I'm so still floating, my heart's still beating a little extra from the reference to the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that'll help us pivot real quick because that the Book of Joy was given to me by my friend Christiana, who is the one who introduced me to Donna. And she is a great source of perspective and confidence and frame for me. Um, and in that book, what I learned was, and for our listeners, it's a conversation between these two men over a time, documented by a Jewish writer. So you've
Mhm.
got these three perspectives on religion, history, culture, you name it, culminating into this one beautiful story. And I listened to it on Audible, and the two actors sound just like them and they laugh, and it's so rich. But it's that joy is the thing that happens in the middle. Joy is not what the happiness. Joy is not the suffering. Joy is how you hold yourself and the way that you say, I have what I need to get through. I'm going to continue moving towards my purpose. And it's okay because I can reframe this. I can re-choose this. I can act differently. And to me, that's the most joyful space in the world, knowing that you have the confidence and the capability and the voice to move forward in life. So if that's my definition of joy, I know that joy is a big part of your language, your work. How do
Mhm.
you define joy?
For me, that's a very good question because it's evolving. And for me, and I will take a piece of what the Dalai Lama said in the Netflix piece because I thought, that's how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, it was when I became available to feeling compassion, compassion and the desire through my feeling of compassion for service.
Mm-hmm.
And when I interact with someone and I hold space for someone to experience the truth of who they are and feel safe to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That to me brings me great joy. I have a friend who, for my birthday, she gave me this card. She said, Arya, joy liberator. So if I can
You told me
somehow,
that before, and I can't
yeah,
stop thinking about it. I'm like, that's the perfect name. It's
yeah.
perfect.
So I think that my definition of joy really is being of allowing the compassionate presence that I can bring to someone else and hold space for them so that they can experience their joy of, oh, yes. What is your passion? What is your joy? And joy is not, as you know very well, it's not, well, let's go out and do this and then we'll feel joy. It's an
Right.
inner, I think joy personally, and Teilhard de Chardin said this. Joy is the evidence of the presence of God.
Mm,
And joy
yes.
is actually a higher frequency than love on that the power versus force David Hawking scale. It's
Oh,
actually a
tell me
higher
about that.
frequency. The Hawking scale? Yeah.
Yeah.
David Hawkins created, and many years ago, I guess he used, and I think he used muscle testing, um, to measure the frequency of different spiritual paths and different like compassion and like joy and blessing and then also anger and hate
Mhm.
and the different spiritual traditions and the different holy books from different traditions. And
Mm,
so he did this, and you can go online and find it, Power versus Force Hawking scale.
okay.
And in my experience, I thought, that is true for me because it's such if the love that I have in the chalice of my heart, if it's overflowing, that's joy
That's
to me.
something. Yeah.
Yes. So
I love that. And it's knowing that your cup can always be full, right? There's always like love is the thing, right? God is love. And it is it I love that image of that what's left over, right? The extra um is the joy, right?
mm,
It's that we've done the work to fill the cup, right? And we've created the reframe, we've built in the service. And this is what I have to give the world. This is, I have enough, and now this is my extra for everyone else.
yes, yes,
I love that.
yes.
So much to ponder on. Hey, hey there, amazing listeners of And All the Things. Thank you for being on this journey with me. The fact that you're still here, I have to assume this podcast has sparked your curiosity, encouraging you to think of life beyond your current boundaries. Now it's time to take that energy and channel it into a transformative journey where boundless joy awaits. Introducing The Course for Joy, brought to you by Joy Enterprises and me, Michaela, your Joy Coach. Life gets busy, I get it, but self-care matters and should not take a back seat. That is why we've crafted a 4-week self-guided adventure to seamlessly fit into your routine. In just 15 minutes, a few times each week, our enlightening video lessons and engaging workbooks will guide you through self-discovery and bring you closer to growth. As a special bonus, when you enroll in the Course for Joy, you'll receive an exclusive 50-minute live coaching session. We'll celebrate your progress and create a roadmap for your journey ahead. Are you ready to paint your life with vibrant joy and purpose? Visit myjoycoach.com/course to learn more about the transformative Course for Joy. Let's amplify your joy and ignite your purpose together. Stay tuned for more inspiration and insights right here on And All the Things. Okay, so you've mentioned spirituality a few times in different ways that you've interacted with it, whether it was, working with UNCW, which is my alma mater. Yep, it is indeed. I am a
Hometown
proud
girl here.
Seahawk. What's that?
Your hometown girl.
I am a hometown
Um,
girl. I
Yep.
grew up in New Jersey,
Uh,
left as soon as they'd let me go to college, and 14 years later, I moved back to New Jersey. So I was there
okay.
for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say that is where I learned what spirituality was, and it cleared up a lot of things for me. A lot, like
Mm,
it made sense with, oh, that's why I feel and experience the world in this way, because there's more. Um, so taking the thought of spirituality, let's tie in another way that you told stories and were subsequently awarded for bringing spirituality into the media.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
And this was through some productions that you had on commercial radio, such as NPR. So, can you tell me about getting to that place, and when on the timeline did you receive this award? Because I know that there's been some funny, like spirituality media, let's not go there, but it's coming more and more
mm,
and more.
mm.
So, I'm curious about the evolution and getting to that place.
Ah, thank you for asking about that. Um, well, my spiritual journey is a whole other topic. And I was in meditation one day when I was living in Wilmington before, and I heard very audibly, "You're to work in the media."
Hmm.
And I like, excuse me.
I'm
And,
sorry. Could you give me some more details, please?
and so I went to the Unity minister here in Wilmington. I actually was very involved in actually physically building the Unity Church here back in the day. There were 8 of us. And
Wow.
then I went to the Unity minister and I said, "I got this message. I don't know what this means." He said, "Okay." He said, "Go down to Wave Radio and tell him that we're going to sponsor a radio show." And so within 2 weeks, I was on this commercial radio station that with a live interview show.
Wow.
It's like, how did I get here? I just, I just
You
said,
listened. You turned down the noise and you listened. And then here's the magic part. Then you got curious.
yes.
you got curious about it and you went to people you trusted to
Yes.
say, help me make sense of this. And boom, boom, boom. It was waiting. So
Yes.
keep
Yes,
going.
yes, yes. Well, I took the action, and that's a key piece. A lot when I work with people with their intuitive abilities, and it's one thing to hear it, but it's another thing to take action on it.
Mhm.
And a lot of people say, "Well, I got this intuitive hit." I said, "Well, okay, what did you do with it?" "Well, I haven't done anything with it." So,
Right.
and
I've
then
been thinking about it.
I had the agreement, of course. Agreement to me is very important of the unity minister, and then so what happened was I thought, well, what is it going to be about? I don't know. And he said, well, whatever you want it to be about. So I said, well, we were working with this book called The Quest at Unity at the time. And I said, well, I think I'll call it The Quest, and I'll interview people about their spiritual journey of self-discovery.
Oh, wow.
So that's it, because that's my passion. I love to read spiritual autobiographies, and so that's how I thought, well, I'll just interview people in the church, just
Mhm.
people I know. Like I knew a woman who was who left the convent after 23 years, and she had a great story, and a woman who lived in an ashram. And so I thought I'm just going to do this with
Yeah.
what I called everyday remarkable people.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I'm in meditation one day, and I hear you're to interview James Redfield. Well,
Wow.
James Redfield wrote the Celestine
I
Prophecy.
just got chill bumps. I was
Oh yeah.
looking at that book yesterday.
Okay. Well, it's coming back around now, but it was he wrote it in the early 90s. He couldn't find anybody to publish it, so he gave it to these different bookstores and the Rainbow Bookstore in Charlotte and said, "Would you mind reading this?" And I
Mhm.
had a copy. It was paperback at the time. He couldn't get a publisher. And so I'm go like, so I've got this other message, and I'm like, so I followed it, and I thought I'm just going to reach out and see if I can find his publish his not his agent.
Yeah.
So I end up finding his agent in Florida. She and I were like new old friends. And I then the next thing you know, I'm interviewing James Redfield on the Celestine Prophecy.
Holy cow.
And I'm thinking,
Is that recorded? I would love to hear it, especially in
it
that raw space where it wasn't yet what it became, which for our listeners reading that book the first time. I think I was a sophomore in college, so that's 1999. Um, was a game changer.
yes,
I said, oh, this was that moment where I met, like, I can make sense of so much more now because I
yes.
understand there's so much more.
Yes, and he it was translated into 21 languages. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 years.
Wow.
And what I'm seeing now is the 20-year-olds are starting to read him again. He's coming back around.
Cool.
But the funny thing about that story was that we had our show on Sunday night, and the race was before us, the auto races, live. And so I'm home, I'm getting ready to go to the station. Well, it happened to be the Memorial Day when there's a big race, and I don't remember what it is, Daytona 500,
Sure.
whatever. And I get a call at home, and it's the radio station manager saying, you might be preempted on your show tonight because the race might go longer. And I'm saying, okay. So I had James Redfield's home number because we did it over
Mhm.
the phone,
Uh-huh.
and I don't get an answer. There's
Mhm.
no answer. And I'm going, okay, we're supposed to be on the air in an hour.
Yep.
So I call his agent in Florida, and she said, oh, he's probably at his other house. Let me call. And she had two phones back in the day when we had
Yeah.
and
Corded
she said,
phones.
let me go ahead and call him. Hold on. So I hear her go and call on another phone, his house in Florida. And she comes back to me and she says, I'm dying here. She said, I can't get a hold of him. I said, you are? I said, uh, she said, well, how about this? Could you interview somebody else? If I can get you somebody else. I said, well, we're going on in an hour. So she said, well, I'll keep trying. So I had to go to the station, and I went to the station not
Wow.
knowing who I was going to interview, but he was there. So it turned out to be, and then I subsequently interviewed him when I got to the NPR station on his other book, The 12th Insight. And
Wow.
yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So how did the conversation go?
Oh, it was amazing. Honestly, it was amazing. I think one of the most, when I got to the NPR station, it was the remarkable thing that happened because they're recorded, they're pre-recorded. So I'm talking to him and I'm talking about, I don't know, he's talking and I'm listening and I'm hearing the breaking up, a breaking up. And finally I thought, oh man, I don't want to lose him. And so I said, I'm hearing that there's a breaking up. I said, let's agree that we will have a clear connect. He
Mhm.
said, let's do it. And we left that in the interview because it didn't do it after that.
Isn't that something?
But
So once again,
it was actually the first program, the Quest, that I got the award for. The Unity Church got the award.
that's incredible. What do you think it is that's drawing the 20 something crowd back to that book today, 20, 30 years later?
I think because for me, it was a roadmap, a
Mhm.
basic. I'm a tool person. You got to
Mhm.
give me tools. I don't, if somebody says the concept of be here now, well, I, how do I do that?
Right.
So I think what it gives is you pay attention to coincidences, it's a roadmap for people who are awakening in a way that it does talk about control dramas too, about energy. It's a new way to introduce about energy and control, power and
Yep.
control. So I think that's why it is. The couple of 20-year-olds I talked to about it said, wow, it's opened up a whole new awareness for me about spirituality that is not religion.
Mhm.
Because as we know, it's
It's
not,
its
well,
own thing.
yeah.
And it can be very complicated,
Yes.
right? And we complicate it by trying to make too much out of the basis, and that's that God is love, right? And when we quiet out the rest, I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but we can hear the voice inside of us that says, you need to do this, you need to go here, and then the courage to answer that call.
And yes, and James Redfield said that is job one, is you got to can make that connection with the divine. Now he said it can happen. He said some people who are runners get into a zone. So he
Mhm.
didn't say you have to sit down and meditate. He said you got to make that connection with your own the source with
Yeah.
the divine.
Well, and easier said than done, right? Because like you said, be here now. Well, I am here, obviously, duh, right? And
Right.
I giggle at that because that was something that drove me nuts as a child. But my dad, if we were in traffic or whatever, would, Michaela, be here now. And, screw you, Dad. Like what? Like, right? Like, I don't want to be here now. I'd rather be anywhere else. But there was a learning that's still instilled in me. And I find myself to this day going, Michaela, be here now. How do you help people get there, right? Because it's one thing to listen to two coaches, two practitioners of this belief say, well, yeah, be here now and do this and listen to that voice. And I can hear people on their side going, yeah, right. There's just no way. So, what are some of the tools that you have found to help people? And maybe it's the breathing activity that you do to get into that space of be here now and then to come back to it when things get noisy.
It is absolutely the breath because when I took the breathwork training and got certified in 93, I used to travel around and give workshops and do private sessions. And what's evolved for me around that was, okay, that's great. And there are tools, breathing tools. I think I'm up to 6 now that I teach people to utilize because we have voluntary control over our breath.
Mhm.
And now it's everywhere you look. It's all about the breath, all about the breath. And the
Yeah.
be here now breath is actually very simple to do. I teach people first you ground your energy through you from source all the way through to the earth and see the roots going out. You ground yourself, and as you breathe in, you breathe. I see, you see a root going out from your spine into the earth and through your legs into the earth, and beautiful roots spreading out. And the in breath is breathing in the energy of the earth. And as I'm doing that, I'm saying, be here now. And then I breathe out and I share the divine source energy with the earth.
Release, like catch and release, right? Or not even release, but
Share.
just the right, the some here now and it's now moving there. Um, do people resist slowing down in that way? Like, do they have a hard time even physically, like getting their body to that rooted place?
I think, well, some people do, but usually people that come to work with me are ready for
They
that.
want it.
And everything, I say, look, everything, if you want to build your muscles, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to the, you're
Work
gonna
it
go to
out.
the workout. So this is building spiritual muscles. And
Hmm.
it's not gonna happen overnight because the spiritual ego will tell us, well, you know what this concept is. Why aren't you already doing it?
Yep.
Because there's cycles, there's a realization, actualization, embodiment, and integration. And
Hmm.
until we have reached those cycles, it's not integrated with us. And so it's about being compassionate with ourselves
Yeah.
that, okay, just practice this and you'll get it. I teach body dowsing to people and they get frustrated because they don't get it. And I said, that's okay. Just
What's
practice.
body dowsing?
Body dowsing is a way to ask your body if something's beneficial for you.
Hmm.
So it's very empowering. I believe in these empowering techniques to share with people.
Hmm.
That's what I'm about.
It's
Tools
really
of
cool.
empowerment.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's we need the tools, right? Because as we've discussed, like if I can't imagine that there's a solution to opening this tin can, I'll never fathom a can opener,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
but when someone says there are other ways, you go, oh, maybe. What if I could? And gosh, maybe that's possible, right? And I again, as here we are talking about telling stories, and I say again, words get in the way far
Mm.
too often. So you mentioned earlier, like, well, I can't meditate, I can't sit still for that long. Okay, great. Take the word meditate off the table.
Mhm.
Can you be kind to yourself for 2 minutes, sitting
Mhm.
in whatever comfort looks like for you? Can you be compassionate to all the things you've done in the middle of your day? There's so many ways to get there that don't start with, well, I can't sit in lotus pose for 25 minutes and think nothing but pure thoughts. It's unfathomable,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
just like you said, I'm not going to go in and pick up a 250-pound weight. It's unfathomable. How do you get there? Baby steps. But if I think because I sit down and meditate for 2 minutes and I think compassionately that my problems are going to be solved, the answer is no,
Right.
right? We
Right.
don't solve problems there. We create perspective, we build it, but it's got to start with 2 minutes and then 3 minutes and then 4 minutes and building up in a safe way.
Yes.
Because when we go big like that, whether it's a New Year's resolution or, a 25-minute meditation sitting, it's a pass fail. And there's no room for growth, right? And the former English teacher in me is like, oh, they grew by this much and they grew by this much. But the logical adult in me gets in the way and is like, well, Michaela, you should have figured this out already. And there should be. So I like bringing in the idea that as we talk about breathing techniques and the be here now technique, it might just be saying it once the first time and then saying it 3 times the next time. And then
Mhm.
guess what? Now you're at 5 times and now you're not even thinking about it. And stimulus comes your way and you go, ooh, be here now, hang tight. Ooh, and you move on.
Yes.
But if we aren't practicing, all the noise gets in the way. So speaking of practicing and breathing, it really is becoming a hot topic today, right? Everyone's talking about breath, and
Mhm.
I fall in line with that.
Mm.
Last January, I read the book Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I say I read it, I listened to it on Audible, but that month I listened to it twice back to back. I said, wow, packed
Mhm.
with historical information, um, the economy and how that's evolved and how that plays a part in what's happening with our oral teeth, breathing, all the stuff. But it left me, and I love how you said this, we have voluntary control over our breathing, but we forget that because it's involuntary,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So often I'm like, of course I'm breathing. And if I stop and check in with myself, I haven't taken a real breath in a minute and a half, you know, like we're stifling ourselves.
Yes.
So it sounds to me like you're kind of ahead of the game in a lot of the cool trends, right? Spirituality in the media, you kind of, I'd like to say,
Yeah.
help bring it there. Breath work, you said that was 1993.
Yeah.
What brought you to that place when it wasn't cool, quote unquote cool, if you will, right? To bring this part of you to life and let it be part of your career, how you used your service.
For me, I was working at the medical center here at the time, and I had what I called a spiritual big bang, so to speak. It was a
Mm.
spiritual awakening that got my attention. And after that happened, I began to be aware that there was another purpose for my life. And so I happened to read, well, it's like James Redfield says, pay attention to coincidences.
Mhm.
And I had a book just fall out at my feet after I had this, what I call my spiritual big bang. And it's called uh, um, Spiritual Stormy Search for the Self,
Mm.
which was Stanislav Grof, who really created holotropic breathwork. And
Awesome.
that book came into my world because I didn't understand what happened to me. I didn't understand the physiological things that were happening to my body. So I read that book. And as I'm reading that book, a friend of mine had gone to Asheville and she said, I went to this amazing talk at the Unity Church, and it's about breath work,
Mm.
holotropic breath work. And she said, I think we should bring him here to the Unity Church in Wilmington. And so we did, he did, and
Wow.
he became my teacher and one of the, I mean, my, I think first teacher. And I said to him, I said, you know, you are so, you just have all this radiance coming off of you when you were teaching and just glow of gold light. I kept seeing it. And he looked at me and he
Mhm.
said, that's just a beautiful reflection of who you are.
Mm.
And so I thought, behold, my teacher.
This is my thing. This is
This is my teacher. So that's why I got started with it. And it was a intense process to get
it.
certified back in the day with that. So, and I realized that I paid attention to the coincidences, and I realized that when I started sharing it with people, it was transformational. It was so transformational for people.
In what ways? What kinds of healing do
Mm.
people experience after this kind of work?
Well, as we are in a different energy now than we were back in 1993, my sessions now are very different. They move, people move in about 20 minutes, but back in the day when the energies were not as supportive, they what would happen is people would get in touch with some because the breath helps you bypass the conscious mind
Hmm.
and when a breath session. And so when you talk about awareness of holding the breath is a trauma response. Because when
Mm.
we were little people in a world of giants, what did we do? We made sound, we made noise. And what were we told? Be quiet.
Right.
So,
We weren't born believing that we were taking up too much space or that we weren't enough. We came out all vocals blaring. You're
yes.
right.
And so when we were told to be quiet, we
Mm.
would hold our breath. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So what that is if I see somebody holding their breath, the subconscious message there is, I'm not here and this isn't happening.
You're not in your body. You're disembodied, right?
It's
Because
disassociated. Yep.
wow.
And it's like you told the story about when you were in the car. I don't want to be here. Your dad said, be
Mhm.
here now, but I don't want to be here. So holding the breath is
Mm.
what we did. I'm not here and this isn't happening.
Right.
So what happened back in the day, once people would start to do the holotropic breath technique, is that they would, and we'd set an intention. There was back in that day, there was a lot of anger and a lot of gnashing and grinding and all this kind of thing. I would also have them make sound because sound
Mhm.
is a powerful way to create vibration to help soothe and integrate.
Yep.
And the sessions would go on for an hour and a half. I mean, people just really getting in touch with things. Now what I see, because I really believe the energies are much more supportive and we're not in that space,
Well, that's good to hear. Because
it's
one of my questions is going to be, tell me about our energy today and where do you think we're going? But we'll come back to that.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
Um, so what I'm seeing now is that I asked the client to set an intention. My job is to hold sacred space, is to connect with their higher self and my higher self. And if I'm guided to say something to them that might
Mhm.
help them to open,
Navigate. Yeah.
yeah, then I do that. If I don't, I'm holding sacred space is what I'm
Mm.
doing. It's their journey, and so it happens really, what happens to many people nowadays is it plugs them into source connection. And they get messages, and to watch someone hook into their source connection is like, it's such a privilege. I
Mm.
mean, when people leave my office, I'm just sometimes in tears that I got to hold space for that. And it's more gentle. It's much more gentle, and it's a more spiritually oriented rather than emotionally cathartic.
Right. Right. We're not going to go back through trauma, right? We're not going to like beat trauma over the head. We are going to like love it out or
That's a
through.
very good, yes. I love that, how
That's
you said
cool.
it. Mm-hmm.
So many good things. And the thing I love most about breath work is that it is the freest, most accessible, readily at your fingertips tool that any of us can ever have. And it is something voluntary. We have to choose. Yes, we will keep breathing by and large, but we can consciously choose to use those tools at any given time.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that's what a gift that is. So thank you to Source Creator.
Yes.
Um, so in the work that you do, it sounds like you're able to pull down any safeguards and open up that space, right? But then I imagine at the end, there's a way to maybe put back some, so you're not walking through the world experiencing everyone's vulnerabilities and needs, right?
Mm,
Because opening up that space to be a safe space for another
mm,
human being is
mm.
opening up to all of their movement and energy and flow. How do you keep yourself feeling safe in the great big world where there's still a lot of that anger and hatred happening? Do you do before and after work, or is there a mindset?
It's a mindset. It is about the breath as well.
Mhm.
And I have different tools that I use. And I use a mirror pyramid. I do one of the things with children that I learned for them, because they are so open.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of them really like breath work. And it's helpful for them. Is that I suggest that they all they have to do is intend to close their power center, their third chakra, which is where we take in energy into that third chakra, that they intend that it be closed down to 30%,
Mm.
so that they're not taking in um they're not taking in all that,
The
and then when they
riffraff.
get home they
Yeah.
can open it up. You know what, I'm going to have to put my battery charger on here. Can you hang on just a second?
Yeah, sure. And I can edit this out. I'll plug mine in while we're at it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I love about this. I almost edited it out, but here we are having a conversation about how we protect our power sources, how Arya protects her power source when the world is filling us with so much energy. And then all of the sudden, as it turns out, both of our computers needed, guess what? Their power source. So we took a break and I left it in just to call everyone's attention to how are you managing your power sources? Not just the ones we plug in with the computer, but the ones that we plug in through source, through our intention, through our thoughts, through our engagements. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get back to the show. Okay, where were we?
Breath mostly.
Oh, yeah, talking about keeping you
Yeah.
safe from the all the energy of the world.
Mm.
Um, okay,
Part of that is a consciousness that I am safe. If
that's
I
your
go
cup being
out,
full. That's
uh-huh.
knowing that your cup is full.
If I go out in fear that something's going to happen, I mean, we're powerful creators. I can create that. I'm the creator of my world and my universe. So it's important for me to remember that life is not happening to me, it's happening for me.
That's right. That's right. And it again, it's every encounter is a healing encounter divinely seen when we're paying attention. Otherwise, it's just another punch in the gut, another punch in the gut.
Mm.
And that's tiresome. That's exhausting. So what do you do to recharge yourself? Do you have like a morning or evening routine, or is there a sacred space that you create for you to keep that energy flowing, that cup overflowing?
Yes, I do have a morning routine. I'm an early go to bed person and I'm an early rising person. This morning it was 4 o'clock and it's usually between 4 and 5.
Mhm.
And I always journal. I've been journaling for 40 some years. Stream, whatever, if it's a dream or it's
Always telling your story, huh, Arya?
like stream of consciousness, and then I have a breath technique that I use that will help me to access whatever it is that I'm ready to access in the morning, to clear maybe from the night, or to be in awareness of what is coming in for me today.
Mhm.
I do also have something I call, and I'm actually writing a little book about it, called A Day in Review.
Mm.
So I look back on my day in the evening and I think, I just kind of look at it and see, not with judgment, just observing. It's like, oh, I could have, that was kind of icky. And so I can send a blessing because there's really no time and space. So I
Mhm.
just send a blessing to that moment and
Mm.
clear that, from the day. So I think we go to bed a lot of times with all this stuff
Yes.
from the day that we haven't resolved,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. And what a pivotal time in our existence is that transition into sleep, right? The going to sleep and the being in that resting space. And let's be honest, so many of us, our American counterparts, kind of suck at sleeping,
Yeah.
right? Like,
That's,
and I
yeah.
and I say that as a person who spent years trying to get to a better night's sleep. And I'm there. I sleep like a baby now. I can take
Yay.
naps and everything.
Yay.
But it took a lot of work, right? Because
Mhm.
number one, I had to figure out what all the noise was so I could, sort it out. And in my work, I look at that as what's draining you and what's gaining you,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
How do you
Hmm.
look when you do the audit of your day? What
Hmm.
drains you? What's sucking the life out of you and what's filling it up to fill that cup back up? But being conscious of that was not easy because soon enough I realized that, those 2 glasses of wine I like to have at night, that was the thing that was really keeping me from my good night's sleep. After I did all the work, I managed all the mindset. So then it was that relationship that had to change. My point is, it didn't happen overnight, but
Hmm.
I knew that it was important that I get a good night's sleep. And there came a time where I was willing to do anything. I mean, weighted blankets, eye masks, the curtains, the noises, I sleep, I tape my mouth at night. I do mouth taping, which I love. I think I'll continue that forever based on the
Mm.
science,
Mm.
which I also learned from the book Breath, which is fascinating. And anyway, I should probably do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But it's all those tiny little things that we take for granted. Our breathing, our sleeping get in the way of listening to that voice inside. How can I listen to the voice inside if I'm fatigued and on repeat, I have every mistake I've ever made for the last forever, right? When we have tools and tricks to move them through so that I can get the good night's sleep and wake up and be my most productive self that I'm capable of that day. And the more and more I can talk to people and share the story of there are other ways to live life. You don't have to live life with that Samsonite collection of baggage. Um, and that's why I do the podcast. I want to share those stories and those tips. So one of my things is I'm curious about if you could go back in time maybe before the big bang trauma and spiritual awakening, before all of that, if you maybe 18 years old without changing the timeline of your life, what advice would you give yourself? right? Because we're here. We're not going to change the events of our story. But what
Mhm.
might you advise her or gift her?
Well, at that point, I was actually anorexic.
Mm.
And I was having panic attacks. So
Wow.
with the wisdom that I have now, are you saying with the
Yeah.
wisdom I have now is I would tell her that that's really about an energy loss and it's about control
Hmm.
and it's about feeling out of control
Yeah.
and that the way to have control is to breathe and learn about your energy and understand that we've got a massive loss of control issues going on and that she I would tell her that you know you're safe even though you went through a lot of fear as a child.
Hmm.
Know that there is a source energy in you that is always with you, that you are safe and protected. Because I believe even, I know that we all have an inner child,
Hmm.
and I call it a magical child. And the magical child wants to be heard. And if
Right.
we're not paying attention, they will be heard in ways that go sideways.
Right.
So I would say to her, remember to listen to your inner child, your magical child, and what she needs from you to feel safe. And that's what I would do. I would talk to her because uh, that's what I didn't know then that I
Hmm.
know now. That source connection, that spirit, the angels, higher self is always there for me. And that's where the control is. That's where the control comes.
Yeah, and it's when we're trying to control the external things, right? That it one, it gives an excuse to not go internally. But if we, and I teach a class on this, if we aren't living within ourselves, if we aren't in our bodies, in our spirits, we will be without forever. We will live without for eternity.
Mm.
Because if that cup of love that we know from, all of our experiences and learning is the divine creator, is the source, gosh, it's ever flowing. And
Mm.
the way you said that to your 18-year-old self, we all need to hear. There is a magical story in every single one of us. So with your pursuit of many women, many stories, how would you invite our listeners to tell their story? Right? Like, how would someone start, or why would they start wanting to tell their story?
It's for their own to start with because it's a self-love. To me, it's about self-love. It's about coming from an observer place. If you can come from
Hmm.
an observer place about the story, and right now we're starting what's called sharing circles. And in the sharing circles, which we did at the end of Many Women, Many Stories, we asked someone to think about a time that was a challenging experience in your life. And we guide them then through how can you change your perspective? How can you see it from a place of, oh, I had a healing because I
Hmm.
realized, or I know about a gift that I have. So I would say take a look at, start with taking a look at some of the challenging experiences in your life.
Hmm.
And then just ask whatever you call it, your source connection, your higher self, to give you some insight and wisdom as to how can I look at that? How can I reframe that?
Yep.
I think that's a place to start. And then actually Redfield wrote a book called The Celestial Vision, and it's a workbook that
Hmm.
you can actually go through. Why did I choose my parents? Or what gifts did my parents give me that I didn't see when I was a child?
Yep.
So I think just inner reflection on those experiences and say, oh, that's what I learned through that experience.
Hmm.
And that's what I can give into the world through that experience.
Hmm. Oh, I
I
love
would
that.
just sit and journal. I'm big on journaling.
I see that. And that's something I've dabbled in. I've never had a stealthy practice or a steady practice. But every time I hear it, I get that moment of, oh, Michaela, you should, right? And I go into a little bit of judgment and then I quickly back out of that. But what I know is that anytime we put that pen on paper, we're telling a part of our story and we're getting it out and we're sharing it. So whether you're sharing your story on paper or with a trusted friend, not social media at large. I mean, sure, if that feels safe for you, but it's about acknowledging that we have something to say
Mm,
and that someone should listen, even if it's just a piece of paper, and building up that perspective of self-worth,
yeah,
right? That's where what you said love comes from is having self-worth, knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you have enough. And that full cup is joy to me. Like the
yeah.
full cup that everything else I have, and I love that image. Um, so I guess one of the last questions I have is when you were a child, did you know that you wanted to be a storyteller, a healer through breath, or what did you think you would be?
Well, um, what did I think well, I loved animals. I love dogs.
Hmm.
I got first place. I was just looking at a picture the other day my brother sent me. First place when I was like 12 years old in an obedience dog training school with
Hmm.
my grandfather's bird dog. So I thought, I thought that to me was something I love to do. I'm not sure I had I no, I did find something from third grade my mother sent. It was, I want to, that's funny to bringing this up. I want to be an actress. I want to have a ranch and I want to get married. So I guess that I wanted to be an actress. And my dear friend and the woman who is 89 years old, the co-minister of the Unity Church here that has the 9 children that spoke at our meeting,
Hmm.
said, well, did the radio satisfy that for you? And I thought, it did.
Yeah. Well, but I think that too is where words get in the way because what does an actor do? An actor helps tell a story.
Right. You're right.
Right? An
Yeah.
actor represents, an actor says, I am here to tell your story, right? Some of them are better than others, sure, right? We've seen some really bad actors.
Yeah.
But but the thing I noticed about you as I looked through your bio and I, did a little digging is that in every arena, you are using your gift, your ability to listen to that voice to help other people tell their story, to give them the tips and tricks to live it fully. It's not just the telling, right? With when we're full breath, our body posture changes,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
to live fully our stories. And I believe when my story, your story, everyone's story is told, we're all equal then, right? Because it's just a story. And
Right.
I'm living my fullest and great for me, and you're living your fullest and great for you. But we take the judgment and the competition and the expectation out, right?
Yes. And I think that it's like an orchestra. When we're each an
Yes.
individualized expression of source energy. We're all connected to the one, and we are these beautiful individualized, expressions. And
Hmm.
when we're in harmony, when we're playing together and respecting each other's instrument, you
Hmm.
know, and then we are have this beautiful orchestration that is heard, this beautiful symphony. If we're in judgment, if we're in jealousy, if we're in all those distorted patterns, critical, then where
There's no
then
room for that.
there's it's just disharmony. It's
Mhm.
disharmony, and it sounds like scratching your nails on the board.
Yeah, and that is awful. That is
It is really,
intolerable. So we don't want any nail scratching on the board. We want to live in flow. We want to live in harmony.
yeah.
And to that end, as your bio has shared with me, you are a lyricist and you've made music and you've produced
Mhm.
music.
Mhm.
What role has music played for you? And when I think of breath work, I think of music, right? I think of that exchange of sound. Um, how does that fit into this experience of life that you're having?
Well, it's I started actually writing poetry back again in the 90s. And I would get inspired poetry coming through and I'd have to write it down, have to write it down. And so I don't play an instrument. I love to sing. And I became in association with a man that is he's a great musician and composer in Asheville. And I said to him, I think what I want to do is put these poems with music underneath them.
Mm.
And so I started doing that with, like, I called the chalice of my heart. I have a prayer of the chalice that has me saying the prayer and then the music
Love it.
underneath. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And then he and I, I wrote lyrics for this Voices of the Laurel Children's Choir. It's called Remember God Loves You. So I wrote the lyrics for it, and he wrote the music. He composed the music for it.
Wow. That's really
So
cool.
we collaborated on a few things, he and I. Yeah.
Hmm. Have you, it makes me think of another thing. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
Have you experienced in the religious world, right? And you go to church, church is a big part of your journey. Um, is Unity a special church that is open to talking about source and energy, or because that, I wear a Buddha charm all the time. I'm not
Mhm.
Buddhist,
Mhm.
right? I claim Christianity, but I also really think it's source, not just God. I think God's too small. And, the Bible is really great and there's so much to glean, but I have so many questions and things about it. So how do you blend being in the spiritual world and then using the common language of church and God to people who may not understand it?
Well, the way that I do work with that, and I remember when I was in the Bible Belt working, and a woman came to me and she asked me, she said, "Can you, is Jesus Christ your Savior?" And I took a moment and I took a breath and I said, "He has been my master teacher and way shower."
Hmm.
Yes, I would say that he did save my life in a way because he said to me, "Love thy neighbor as thyself."
Yeah.
So I can find that it's for me, it's about finding a common point of agreement. I'm not here to make Christianity wrong or Buddhism
No.
wrong. In fact, I'm in a small Buddhist, we call ourselves the Buddha Buddies meditation group on Sundays.
That's
What
great.
unity was for me though, when I found it, I thought, this is it. I'm going to come here every time the doors are open because there was total acceptance. There was of anyone, there wasn't judgment.
Wow.
There was a male and female co-ministers that were parents of 9 children who were providing a safe space for us to grow up again because they were safe parents. They encouraged, they inspired. I mean, they gave
That's
me my first
beautiful.
radio show.
Yep.
And so that's what unity, when I went to the minister, in fact, I was on track to be a unity minister. I was
Mm.
invited to come out and interview and all that, and I chose not. But I said, "Well, Renee, what am I going to say? Who is God? I mean, what is unity about? I don't know how to define it."
Right.
He said, "Christ in you, your hope of glory."
Oh my gosh, it's so simple.
That's what, and somebody did a painting for it for the church. Christ in you, your hope of glory, which is true. And they started meditate. We had a meditation with every service.
Wow.
That was my first time with meditation. So it's non-denominational. It welcomes everyone. And and I've been in churches before too. I mean, I used to enjoy the communion piece because
Mhm.
of the sacredness of the
The
ritual.
ritual, right.
Mhm. Until it wasn't sacred as it was being shared. And then when I saw that it was just a ritual, it was a rote thing, I said, "Done
Right.
here."
Wow. Well, and I think that's just fascinating. Thank you. Because I don't see a separation between spirituality and church, but I know that a lot of churches fear anything that doesn't look the same as what they believe and what they've built their foundation on. Totally respect that.
Yeah.
But when have had the opportunity to deliver a few sermons at my Baptist church, Flemington Baptist Church, and they're wonderful and they receive it. But I think all of them have started with a segment from A Course in Miracles. And then
Mm.
from that, I build in Bible passages, and because that to me feels authentic, and I support it with lots of, clips and phrases. But starting from that place that's a little bit bigger, a little more open, felt right to me. and then I just craft it to the way my audience needed it. But I know that what I'm talking about is spirit, source, energy, God, but I'm using their language and I'm saying it in a way that they can understand, but they're still getting my, and I'm not saying my message is bigger than the Bible. Just for me, it feels bigger because it's more whole. Um, but it's been an interesting thing to balance, the wearing of the Buddha necklace and the reading of A Course in Miracles with people who just want to, talk about the Bible. So I'm learning to play a little bit in both.
And bless you for that. I really honor that. I do honor that because I feel that you're a bridge, and we
Mm.
need bridges. We
Yeah.
need bridges to take the words that are so powerful that are in the Bible. The teachings of
Yes.
Jesus were extremely I mean, the true part
Agreed.
that was his teachings, which is pretty simple and short.
Mhm. I know.
And to incorporate that into the quote religious setting
Mhm.
and help people get the softer way
Right.
of understanding. I really honor that you're doing that because I think it's needed.
Well, again, it's let's be curious about it. And if we can be a little more curious today than we were tomorrow, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Mm.
Um, so as we wrap up today, I always ask this, not always, but often ask the question, got it from my favorite podcaster, Tim Ferriss, but if you could have a billboard, assuming Many Women, Many Stories has been fully advertised and marketed, your health and wellness practice fully marketed, if you could say one thing to millions of people, what would you say? And it
Mm.
could be different tomorrow, but today, what would you
Mhm.
say?
Mhm. I would say you are precious.
Yeah,
You are precious.
so
Yeah.
are you.
Thank you.
And we don't hear that enough.
No.
We don't hear that we're special. We don't hear any of that. But that's so often because we're looking for that external validation. But if we quiet it down, that cup is bubbling with you are worthy, you are precious, you are a magical freaking unicorn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you are precious. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
You're welcome.
Okay. So all of our listeners right now are probably going, how do I tell my story? Right. So how do we connect with you and Too Many Women, Many Stories to find out what's happening, what's coming up, and how they can participate?
Yes, you can go to manywomenmanystories.com, and you can submit your story and there'll be a way to do that on the website. And so you can connect with us through manywomenmanystories.com is the best way. And you can, welcome to reach out to me too, Arya.Donahue@gmail.com. I welcome, people to connect with me directly also. I love that.
Awesome. Well, I am not surprised that this has been a very rich conversation, and I have a lot to think about and really just be grateful for. The more that we can put into the world that we are each uniquely precious, the more that we can say you have the tools within you already,
Yes.
whether it's the mindset, the breathing, the pausing, the stronger we all become. And
Yeah.
let's face it, the world may be open to energy more so today than it was 30 years ago, but the world is in a tough spot.
Mhm.
There's a lot of pain and suffering. And while, yep, happiness and suffering are a part of life, we have the power to change that in our small little world,
Yes, we
even if
do.
just a little bit today.
I agree.
Um, and I really think you've given us a lot to go on for that and a lot to really dig our teeth into. So, on behalf of myself and our listeners, I feel grateful. I am thankful for you. And what a pleasure to just have an opportunity to connect. And
Mhm.
gosh, I think that the conversation could continue on for several hours.
Yes,
But
I'm sure.
what a gift. What a gift
Thank you.
to
A
share.
gift to me also. Thank you so much. And I feel we're new old friends.
I
That's the way
agree. I
I say
don't think this will be our last conversation
don't think
about
so.
joy and how to help people move forward.
Yes.
But the way that you have chosen to live your life, that Your story is being told through the stories of so many other people. And that's the kind of legacy that I want, right? I want the kind of legacy that says being seen in her space helped me live my life stronger, fuller, better. And I'm grateful that you're doing that for the world today.
I support you in that mission, and I see
Thank you.
accomplishing it with grace and ease flow.
Here we go.
Thank
Let's
you.
do it, right? All right, Arya, thank you so
Bye for,
much.
I'll say bye for now.
Bye for now, and wherever you're off to, please make it a great day.
And you as well. Bye.
And that's a wrap on another episode of And All the Things. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you really liked it, please go ahead and rate it. Then think about who in your life might also need to hear it and any of the other episodes we have shared. Then share it with them. When you find something meaningful, something valuable, you've got to share it and pay it forward to those you care for. Thanks for joining us, and follow along on Instagram at MyJoyCoach to see more of me, your host, Michaela Burdyshaw. And as always, make it a great day.